Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Awaken Your Ego. Today we have Ryan Fontillas joining us in our podcast. He's one of our speakers in our Awaken Your Ego event coming up next month. Ryan Fontillas is a Central Valley native and graduate from San Jose State University, California, with a Bachelor's of Science degree in kinesiology with an emphasis in exercise and fitness. He is currently pursuing a career in sales and is a representative for AbbVie. He spends his free time as a public speaker for Team Esteem California and loves helping those in the community to realize their potential. He has always been very athletic and is currently pursuing a professional wrestling career, and he performs under the alias Epitome of Cool. He and his wife, Katie, are welcoming their first child into the world, or actually they just welcomed their first child, and couldn't be more excited. So let's welcome Ryan.
Hey.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So Ryan, we wanted to break the ice with you by answering some rapid fire questions.
Let me get my timer on.
So the goal is to answer them as quickly as possible, just the first thing that comes to mind within a minute. Mm-hmm. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. What's your favorite drink?
Alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Either.
This is fast. This is supposed to be.
Oh my God. Zoa energy drink.
Nice. When are you most productive?
All day.
Who is your inspiration and why?
Probably my grandmother, because she's my rock.
Nice. Summer or winter?
Summer.
What's your favorite number?
7.
How do you start your day?
With a workout.
Which subject were you worst at school?
Paying attention.
Which subject were you best at school?
Talking to people.
What scares you?
Absolutely nothing.
Nice. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
At home with my wife and daughter.
What's something that you do not like doing?
What's it I don't like doing? Oh my God. The folding clothes.
All right, that's it. That's up. Fantastic. I think you won.
Yeah.
I think I went in and out of character there. I was like, I'm not trying to be in character, but yeah.
That's awesome because we want to get into that later, how you manage kind of both.
Sure.
But let's start with the question: what inspired and motivated you to pursue your career in professional wrestling?
Yeah, so a lot of things. So I've been a fan of professional wrestling my whole life. I remember I was a kid, me and my little brother, when we lived with my mom, we'd put on wrestling on Monday nights. And when you're a little kid, I mean, it's kind of like watching like role models, right? Like their charisma, you know, a lot of the talking that they're doing to each other, it kind of made me like, I was just so intrigued with like wanting to be guys like The Rock, you know, and I'll name a bunch of other guys that you guys probably don't know. So,
Stone Cold.
John Cena, Stone Cold, John Cena. And then, I don't know, like professional wrestling has been something that's been in and out of my life. It's not always like a popular thing, you know, so I think in high school, I kind of just stopped following it as much. And then in college, I had some friends that were into it, so we started watching it again on the weekends. And then it was actually, it's kind of crazy, but you know, it's definitely not a career that you pursue, or I should say that for me and culturally, my family, it was never a career that was pursuable as like plan A, you know? But then COVID happened, and obviously I have a great job. Went to college, you know, have a degree and all that. And so I felt like really settled, and then COVID happened, and it was like the world stopped, you know? And I will say for like a couple of years, I felt like I was missing something like in my life, because I was always an athlete. I was always playing sports competitively, you know, high school, growing up, playing baseball year round. And then intramural sports kept me really motivated in college. But there was like a period of time after college where it was like, I'm working out, but you know, I have a girlfriend, and then I have a fiance, and we're really happy. And I was kind of just, I felt like I was just kind of going through the motions. Actually, I think I told my grandmother one time, I remember, I was on like a hamster wheel. Right? I go to work, I go to the gym, I go play softball with my friends, but there's nothing that really like makes me feel like super alive. And that's not a knock on my family. That's just the way that I'm wired, is I have to have
and it's something that feeds your individual self, right?
Right. Like I had to have like a challenge like all the time. So COVID happens, and then the world shuts down, and I get like, we all get taken out of work. We're all just hanging at home. We all remember this, right? We're doing puzzles, and we're me personally, it was like, I got to get gym equipment. The gyms are closed, right? So I actually started selling weights, like getting weights, cleaning them up, and built a garage gym, started selling weights out of my garage. So all I'm doing all day is like, I'm on conference calls for work. I'm
side hustle, selling weights.
I'm helping my wife not go crazy because she's trying to do her real estate thing in a shutdown world. And then the other thing was that there was no sports at all. Like there was all the sports leagues shut down. And that's all I really watched. So nothing's going on. And what I decided to do was like start watching old wrestling. So they have the WWE, or at the time it was called the WWE Network. And I got it back. I started watching it all day, every day while working out in my garage. And I think that like little voice inside my head that was like, you don't have something pushing you, was just like, it all just came together at that point. Like, maybe this is something you could do. So that's how it started. Yeah. And then an idea, they say one of the most, what do they say? They say an idea is like the most infectious thing, like when you get something in your head, or at least it is for me. So it took me about almost a full year actually to decide I was actually going to go do it.
So what actually made you turn that into an action?
Okay, that's another good story. So, so I actually, September of 2020, I reached out to a wrestling school in the Bay Area. After probably 2 weeks of like working up the courage at 32 years old to say like, I think I might want to do this, right? So I sent an email to Kirk White at Big Time Wrestling, and he got back to me a couple weeks later. I actually sent a couple messages to a couple other places too, just to kind of put some feelers out there. Kirk was the only one who got back to me, or he was the first one who got back to me. And then he said, yeah, come down and check out the school. And at that time, or during that time, I got a call from Allergan at the time, and they said, hey, we're going back to work, like in a couple, or we're preparing for this return to work. And I had actually emailed Kirk back and said I was going to come. And then once I found out that I had to go back to work, I got, I guess, a little overwhelmed or a little, I got a little intimidated by the thought of adding this to my plate. I hadn't been to work in 6 months. So I emailed him and I let him know, like, hey, I'm going back to work and I'm not going to make it. So he was super nice about it. Then fast forward about 6 more months, and I'm actually I had just got out of a walking boot because I had an ankle injury. One of my first days back at a gym that had just reopened as well.
Oh, no. Of course.
Yeah. So I'm back at the gym, and me and my wife went together, and I get a tap on my shoulder from this woman, and she goes, hey, did I steal your bench? And I was like, no, you didn't. And I looked at her and I was like, she was wearing a mask, but I have a really like facial recognition software in my head. So like, I looked at her and I was like, hey, I know who you are. You're Bailey from WWE. And so she was like,
what are the odds?
I know. This is in my town. At the time they were training or they were performing in Florida. So I was like, that was the first thing I said. I was like, what are you doing here? In Danville, California, where I live now. And she was like, oh, she was there for like a family thing. And I was like, I just kind of went on with my day. I just introduced myself, or went on with my workout, introduced myself. And then we started talking a little bit. It's a small gym. So we're just kind of talking a little bit and asked her some questions. And she was super down to earth. And Yeah, it was really weird.
Like the universe was like confirming, like, nah, you got to go for it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like it was at the time, like I had to go home and I talked about it with Katie, and I was like, man, maybe I am supposed to do this, you know? And I hit up Kirk White at Big Time Wrestling the next week, and I was training, and I started in June of 2022. We're here now in I started in June of 2021. We're now in June of 2022, so it's been just a year, and it's amazing how much, you know, has come along in that short time. So
when you're doing actual meets and stuff like that, so it's evolved very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I put my head down and that's kind of what I do with things. I mean, I have a lot going on, but like for me, outside of going to work and doing my full-time job, which is the most important thing, you know, we're able to make time, or I'm able to make time in my schedule to train, which is really ultimately the more you train, the more matches you're going to get.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So where did the name come from? Epitome of Cool.
So it's a combination name. So it's okay. So my name is Ryan Fontillas, and since high school, my friends have all called me the Fonz. So I think I mentioned to you earlier, right? Ryan's not a very interesting name for a boy or for a man. I've always felt that way because, like,
it's kind of basic. It is.
And there's so many of us. Like, when I was in high school, I hung out in a group of friends, and there was 3 of us named Ryan. So we all went by our last names, and my last name was easier to abbreviate. So they just started calling me the Fonz. And that has evolved over I've been Fonzarelli, I've been Lorelli, I've been, and then in college, some of our friends started calling me Big Fonz. So the name is technically Big Fonz. It was kind of easy for me because my character in wrestling is just an extension of my personality. It really is. I just turn it up to 150%. So Big Fonz. And then if you look at, people always ask me too when my friends, I never introduce myself to people, by the way, as hi, I'm Fonz. I'm always Ryan. My friends always say, no, he's being humble. He's the Fonz, right? And so, and then people will always go like, oh, do you do this? Hey, right?
I literally thought that's what it was when I first heard it.
I mean, so I've never identified with that.
Happy days.
But it is cool, you know, that people do associate or feel like I can live up to something like that. So, but if you Google Arthur Fonzarelli, the character from Happy Days, a couple of things pop up, and the theme that kept popping up was the epitome of cool. So that's where I came from.
That's a fantastic. That's a fun story. I feel like that's really cool.
I might owe Henry Winkler some royalties eventually. I don't know.
Shout out to him.
Yes.
So that's very interesting, and that's something me and Joanne have talked about a little bit about how wrestlers do create a persona, right? A character. And what do you feel like is the difference between Ryan Fontillas, the Fonz, and then wrestling Ryan, the Big Fonz, epitome of cool?
Yeah. Oh, move back for a second. My legs are getting tight. Yeah, I think it's just the intensity. So I'm a pretty mellow dude at home, and I try to be around my friends. But when I get in the ring, and when the character I'm trying to portray is like, if you get on my bad side, like, it's not going to go well for you. But I'm going to do it in a cool way. You know, so I think it's just the intensity that, you know, and that's the feedback that I get from a lot of people in regards to what they like about what I do in the ring, is that there are a lot of people who can do a lot of cool moves. But for me, it's the intensity and the, I don't want to say this about myself, being, quote, charismatic, but I try to have that charisma, you know, display it. I probably get it from other people.
No, you're very charismatic. Don't even.
Well, I just want to, you know, I want to be humble, but I think watching those guys that were role models for me in wrestling when I was young, namely Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, like when he would come out, the way that he carried himself, I think that kind of made me start to act that way, like, at a young age.
It almost like it gave you permission to be able to do that. Well, he's doing it. That means I could totally do that.
Right. To kind of walk around with a little bit of attitude and but still, not treat people inappropriately, right?
For sure.
But, they did call the era of wrestling that I fell in love with the Attitude Era, because it was a lot of.
Well, almost like you said, you could wear that personality on your sleeve, like during that time.
Right.
It's like, and just amp it up.
Right.
Do you feel like there's a hard switch from day-to-day Ryan pumping yourself up to that, to the epitome of cool? Or is it easy for you to transition based on atmosphere?
Yeah, when the lights turn on, I feel like it's pretty easy. Yeah, and for me, it all starts when the music hits. And that was another thing that was like one of my favorite parts about wrestling, was when the music hits, that's when you know the character's coming out, literally, right? But for me, standing behind the curtain, when my music's going on, it's like everything that I thought about before and everything I'm going to do later is gone. It's just all of these people and whoever I'm, up against, that's it. And so that's kind of like that music hits and it's just like, wow.
Like a laser
When it's almost like you're saying, like, you get to press pause on the before and after, and it's like you get to be 100% present in that moment, finding joy. It's like, it's like the ultimate, like you said,
finding
just go
joy,
to it. It's cool.
finding pain.
Yes.
Let's not get it twisted. Yeah. But it's like laser focused on what I got to do in the ring, right? And then, but I also pull myself back out because there's all these people here, right? And that they came for me. So that's, it's like going in and out of this level of focus and intensity. And I'm a pretty intense dude in there. So.
No, that's awesome.
Do you have like a slogan or like something you do?
Like a move?
Like a move, yeah, like a dance, anything. It's like your signature.
I'm definitely not doing a dance.
I don't know where you're going with that.
Cool, Joanne.
No, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Or what's your walkout song?
Yeah.
So it's called Shatter by Bullet Shatter by Bullet for My Valentine. They're a metal band from the UK. A lot of people really don't know
Never
or
heard of it.
expect. Well, maybe don't know them, and that makes sense. But most people don't really know that I'm really I have a very eclectic music taste. But I'd say about 50% of what I listen to, and about 90% of what I listen to at the gym is like heavy metal. And so, it's a pretty intense song. It starts off very slow and like it has a slow
like
build
build
up,
up.
and then it's like boom. So to your point, I punch through the curtain.
Okay.
I punch a lot of people in the face too. That's against the
But
rules.
like how hard? I mean, are you really punching or is half of it kind
Absolutely.
of exaggerated?
I 100%
Yep, okay.
But yeah, no, it's I have a big right hand in the ring. And I think my slogan right now, if I had to say I have one, when I get really pumped up, I look at the crowd and I make sure they know that that's right. Like I go, that's right. If you watch a couple of my YouTube videos, like I wrestled a guy from WWE in a match, and he's the boogeyman, and he had been haunting me for a couple of days. And when we got in the ring and he actually got there, I got over on him at first. I gave him a big clothesline, and I looked back at all the kids, and I told him, that's right, I have no fear. It didn't turn out for me well after that. But I do give a big right clothesline, and I have a big right hand, knockout punch. So I think I'm working towards something there.
It's building up.
That's right?
Yeah.
So
No, that's cool.
yeah,
That's really cool. And then I know you, like, what are some things that you like to do with that title? Do you have anything that you do? I know you speak with kids,
Yeah.
and is it under your alias or is it just under Ryan or?
both.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Explain what you like to do in your free time with that charity.
yeah. So Team Esteem California is a nonprofit out of the East Bay. They've been around for 25 years. So we go to high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools, and we talk about choices. When I say choices, I mean, making the right choices from today until you get to your goals and your dreams. That's like the main thing. And then we talk about a lot of stuff that goes on in high school, what to expect. I tell a lot of stories about when I was in high school, a lot of choices that I made that weren't the best, or experiences that I had around me, to really help tell the kids, like, because they don't need another person to tell them what to do. Mm-hmm. I just tell them what I've seen so that they can think, about what they might want to do. Not tell you how to think, but tell you to think.
That's almost, it's like that friend approach instead of like cool that friend. Mom, dad friend. Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell them all the time, like, I'm not here to tell you what to do, because as soon as you do that, they don't want to hear it. Like, jokes are bad, blah 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 blah. They are bad, but I tell them stories of things that have happened in high school, and then maybe they think twice about it. Mm-hmm. But the cool thing about that's another thing too. I say cool a lot, so it's really easy for me to play this character. But yeah, the cool thing about doing the speaking is that it's evolved from not just choices, but into a lot of the schools are asking us to come talk about bullying. Mm-hmm. So I was bullied in middle school and in high school. I used to be a really chubby kid. I'm still kind of chubby a little bit at times.
You're thick, that's all. It's different.
So being like, I remember not knowing the right things to do, and a lot of times I ended up in fights as a result of it. And so now it's evolved from like helping kids make good choices to what do you do, if you're being bullied, or what can you do for someone who's being bullied? Because that's like a major thing. Mm-hmm. We're getting calls all the time from middle school specifically in the East Bay asking us to come and talk about bullying. So I've been able to, go in front of assemblies, or go in front of these middle schoolers at an assembly. And the number one thing we talk about is like, do you guys think that I was the one who was bullied? Do you think that I was the bully? Or do you think that, I was just somebody standing by? And they never, some of them guess that I was the one that was bullied. And then I tell them stories about when I was in school and how that led into fights and, getting kicked off the baseball team, and all this stuff is real. And I can just see the light bulb turn on for them. Mm-hmm. So being able to be Big Fonz, the epitome of cool, is someone who they look at as like big and strong, but then also be vulnerable at the same time. I feel like it's legitimately the best part of my day, when I can make time, away from work to be able to do it, to help these kids, because there's one person in there who's, really, really struggling. And, I never had anybody, like I said, to tell me, it's okay, or you should stand up for your friends, be an ally. So
you're touching me in a place of my son. He's like second grade. He got bullied pretty bad last year. So it's just, I don't know. I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but like, I love what you're saying, because I got to be that person for him. And I didn't have a lot of experience with bullying. Sorry, I wasn't thick like you. I don't know. Gratefully, I didn't have an issue with bullying. So it was a hard thing to approach as a parent, because I wanted to freak the F out and go to his school and like talk to these moms and get it all taken care of. But ultimately I realized, like, yes, I stood up for him, reached out to the school and did all of that. But it was almost like a cool moment to have with my son, to be like, all right, we have tools here. Is what they say actually matter? No, like, what do we do? It forced me to have that convo, but I love that you're already prepping kids for that combo, and maybe there's no one to talk to in their home. There's no one to support them in that way. And so that just touches my heart, because I would hope there would be someone for my son that would be like, dude, you're normal. It's fine. We got this. We can figure it out.
It's crazy. Like, I didn't realize, I was bullied, so I understand how someone gets bullied, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't realize that how rampant it is right now, and how, like, I'll tell you a story. So I was at a 5th grade class. We were doing a presentation on transitioning to middle school. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about friends, like you're gonna probably have to make some new friends if you're going to a different school. And the question we asked him was like, what do we like about friends? Like, what do we like in our friends? And one kid raises his hand and he says, I like my friends to be short, and looks over at his friend, as he said, and they all these other guys start laughing, and the kid was sitting there, and he's wearing a mask, so it's hard to tell like if he was upset, but he didn't respond. And I looked over and then I was like, well, I'm now in the position of fixing this. So like, and the teacher is there too, and my partner who's speaking, and I was like, if I don't fix this, like, this isn't,
that kid's gonna be mortified.
like, this is, so then I'm trying to remember what I said. I think I said, I looked at the kid who got marginalized, and I looked back at the other kid, and I was like, does he look like he enjoyed that? And the kid was kind of speechless, and he started laughing, or he was speechless, and then he's like looking around to see if other kids are reacting, and I'm just like staring at him, and he kind of just closes back up, and I was like, okay. So and remember the original question was like, we're making a list of things that we like about our friends, traits. And so the first thing we're going to put on the list is respect, because everybody in this room is going to be respectful to each other for the rest of this class. Is that understood? And then the kid, relaxed. I went over to the other kid afterwards and said, hey, are you doing okay? He was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I didn't want to push it past that, but yeah, that was really eye-opening to me how early that stuff starts, because I don't remember being bullied until middle school, but that was a 5th grade class, and it seemed very natural. So I can imagine it's going, all the way down through. You said 2nd grade?
Yeah.
Yeah, now I gotta start to worry about that with my daughter.
You do. Well,
yeah.
Thankfully, my daughter is in 1st grade, so they're like right next to each other, and she is very confident, and she just stands up for him. And there was a girl one day, she came up to my daughter, and she was like, "Oh, your brother's Dempsey, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, he's stupid, and he gets bad grades." And Sawyer was like, I'm so proud of my daughter. She just was like, you know what? You want to know something? She was like, my brother is so fun to play with, and he's not stupid. And even if he gets bad grades, I don't care. I still like him. And she just kind of shut down. And obviously, like, her teacher called me later that day. Was like, dude, I'm so proud of your daughter for sticking up for your son.
Yeah,
because my son is like, you remind me of him a little bit because he's just so tenderhearted. And like which I don't know you when you're in the ring or when you were bullied, but he just kind of is quiet, like, they didn't mean it, I'm sure. He just kind of like gets introverted. Right. But she's out there like, no, I'm not gonna let this happen. So it's cool to see that dynamic, but it's also heartbreaking that kids can be so vicious, like so young.
Yeah, I was, like I said, I was not aware that I could not remember as a child it getting started that early. It's like, that's probably the earliest I've ever.
Well, my son, he was born with a heart defect. His speech he has like a little lisp because his speech has been delayed because his growth was delayed. And so I feel like, but he's so fun and normal and happy. And so but he is a target because he stands out. He's different. He's flat-footed. He runs silly. It's like, I get why. Like, I could see all the reasons why people, want to poke fun at him. But ultimately, it was like a kid that had a bad home life. Dad was in prison. And so it was a good moment because I was like, babe, it's not about you. He sees something in you. He doesn't have that. And he wants to bring you down to his level so that he's comfortable. Right. It's not about you at all. Like, you're becoming the scapegoat. And so I think it was a good moment for him to, and I'm sure he's still wrapping his head around that concept, but of like releasing the pain a little bit, because it's not about me. Because I know I'm fine. Like, I know I'm normal and great and awesome and fun. And so I don't know. I feel like we do have to start that conversation really young because it is happening. And it just happened throughout his whole school year. And it was like kind of sad. But because of one bad egg, he got all the other boys to rally around and pick on him.
That's the biggest thing that we talk about, or the most important thing that I think we talk about in the bullying assemblies is being an ally. Because I tell this story about how I got into a fight in high school that got me kicked off the baseball team because a group of guys were trying to pick a fight with me and they were bullying me. But none of my friends did anything about it. They were all standing there like laughing because they wanted to see a fight happen. So I feel like, to your point, like what your daughter did was being an ally for her brother, which is great that she did that. I always did that for my siblings. There are a lot of people, and this is the main thing we talk about, is most of the time, those that are bullied don't have a big group of friends, so we're trying to change the culture a little bit where the coolest thing this is exactly what I say, is the coolest thing that you can do is be an ally for somebody else. If it's the person who's sitting at your lunch table, like literally stand up, and support them, because the bully may not stop until they're outnumbered, right? But taking it a step further and being like, there's that kid who's sitting at lunch by his or herself. and being able to stand up for that person. So that's what I'd like to see. That's the world I want my daughter to live in, right? Is even if I would hope that she has a lot of friends. And I tell this to the kids all the time. It's like, it's important to have friends. If you don't have as many friends, that's okay too, right? But there are some people who have no friends, you know, and if you don't have any, we can't let people in our world get to a place where they feel like they are completely disposable.
Yeah, and alone.
There are too many bad things that happen in this world right now. And like, I don't know, the only part of it I feel like I have a bit of an impact, at least in my neighborhood, is to make sure that, you know, we're all treating everybody, like all of our kids are treating each other in a way where we're just not gonna, you know, we're not gonna allow that.
For bullying wouldn't even be an option.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think reinforcement from parents would help a lot. And in your case, you know, you're giving Dempsey the information that he needs in case he doesn't have that ally. You know, what can he do in that moment? The mindset that he can have. It's not you.
Yeah.
Doesn't have anything to do with you.
No, it's true. And it's like, I think it is having, like you were saying, like parents that are willing to say, hey, you're off, what's going on? It's like, we gotta watch our kids close, because sometimes they're trying to shield everyone else from their pain. Like, oh, it's not mommy's issue, I got this. And it's like, no, like I feel like it's important to pry a little bit and to see where they're at emotionally and check in. And I feel like sometimes as parents we get stuck on that hamster wheel and we're going through the motions of surviving, and that emotional support is just like huge.
Yeah. Well, with you being a new father, you kind of mentioned your daughter, but we did want to ask, what do you hope to teach her with the epitome of cool, with that character, that role?
Yeah. That's hard in the ring, because I'm going to do a lot of things and be cross the line and probably do some uncool things. But I think in terms of like what she sees me as a wrestler is just the determination and the drive. And like when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it all the way. A lot of people, when they get into professional wrestling, and you hear this too from like the trainers, is that 95% of people who train for professional wrestling just quit. Like they're just not a good fit, or that was never an option for me, is what I'm getting at. Is like when I say I'm going to do something, like I do it like all the way. What
keeps you laser focused? Because I feel like you do have a sense of resilience about you that I love and appreciate, but it's like, we all have off days. We all have moments in life where it's freaking hard. I wish I could give up. But like, what keeps you just with that intense drive?
I think it starts with, for me, I think it starts with like, when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it all the way, and I'm going to do it well. And I think that last part is like a really key differentiator. It's like this little voice in my head that always, like, if I didn't miss practice for like the first year. The only time I took off in training was when I went to Hawaii. I canceled the trip to all the national parks in Montana. Like, I didn't want to miss 2.5 weeks of training, getting ready for my first show. And there's just this voice in my head that says, we're going to do this really good. Like, doing this just okay or failing when you get in there is not an option. You know, so I feel like that little voice also makes me really tired at times, you know, because I'll talk myself into not missing days at the gym. When I'm really tired, you know, I'll train light. But that laser focus, I feel like I think it started with my dad, growing up in a military family, and then being a police officer and being a hard ass. Yeah, Dad, you were a hard ass. And instilling in me like an early age, like, no, like we do things all the way. We do them well, right? And now it's like every single day, I make a list of what I'm going to do in the day, and this list is literally like a month out. Like, that's how much I have to plan what I'm going to do, and then I execute it on a daily basis. And it's all with the end goal in mind, like be the best speaker, be the best rep, be the best father, you know, be the best husband. All of these things I have to balance, be the best wrestler, and, you know, just making sure that you know, I'm doing. If I fail, it's going to be because of me. It's not going to be because of any. I don't. That's not acceptable for me to like make excuses like, oh, well, this would have worked out. I always feel like I have control over my destiny to a certain degree. I know some things are out of my control, right? But like, I'll try to control the controllables as much as possible. And if I fail, I have to understand that was, I don't want to get to the end, fail, and go, well, you should have done more.
Like the anti-victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is awesome. That's cool.
I'm not into victimizing myself.
What are some things that you do for your health and wellness right now? Because obviously you're training a lot, but it's like for recovery, for supplementation. Like, what are things that you have implemented that keep you going?
Yeah, well, there's a long list of things. So in terms of like recovery, let's start with recovery. So I get deep tissue massage. I go to a cryotherapy place almost every single day where they have red light therapy. I also, what else do they have? They have a sauna. The cryotherapy is like the big one for me though.
I love cryo.
Yeah, because my body was like always hurting. This is before wrestling actually, when I was just playing softball and doing Spartan races, and I was like in my late 20s, and I felt like everything was hurting all the time. So cryotherapy is nice. That's a big one. I go to the chiropractor, and I think that's the main things that I do to take care of my body on a daily basis. And then supplementation wise, take a lot of vitamins, and I've been using peptides with you guys for actually, I think about 4 years in total. I've used peptides. So I feel like I've had a really good experience with it.
Good.
Yeah, kept me really tight, and then what else do I use for supplementation?
Do you have certain proteins or creatine or
I take
those kind of stuff?
Creatine. That just reminded me of something. So yeah, like I glaze over some of these things like creatine and like protein shakes because my dad's a really big guy. And I've been an athlete my entire life, and he has, from a young age, like had me, drinking protein shakes, bringing home Metrics shakes from Costco when that was a thing, right? But he's had me taking creatine in like 3rd grade. So I take creatine every day, and I'm
like it's normal.
I don't even know. I'm just like, oh, here's my creatine. Here's my creatine in my pre-workout. So yes, I take creatine. It's just something I've always done, so I didn't even remember to bring it up.
And do you have any kind of diet you stick to? Because I know you're probably building mass or cutting at different times. Like,
I'm not the best, but I like it that way because so I've been 265 and probably 25% plus body fat. That's when I graduated high school. And then when I became a kinesiology major, I decided I wanted to get in shape. So I graduated college 6 years later. I was at 185 and like 5%. And that was really, really unstable.
That's pretty big difference.
Not fun at all. And so now I'm like 255 and probably like 15%. And I love my life. Like I love what I can eat. I love, I have cheat meals.
A little bit of food freedom.
Yeah. I dial it in as we get closer to my matches. But in general, I try to eat, mostly whole foods, lean proteins. I try to scale back on the carbs if I can. Lately, over the last 3 months, I've eaten meal prep from Lean Feast.
Nice.
I like that place a lot. Yeah, it's saved me a lot of time.
And it's easy. With baby, that's really good.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Who would you say is your biggest fan?
Oh man, there's so many. Within my family, I would probably say the ladies. So, and I don't want to put any one of them higher than the other. So I'm going to say my wife, my daughter, my mom, and my grandma are definitely my biggest fans. Those 4. And then I want to give a special shout out to Jacob, who is probably the biggest wrestling fan in the Bay Area, and I think might be my biggest fan outside of my family.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes, Jacob, you are the man.
Go, Jacob.
Jacob, you're cool too. I love it. All right, well, what are some things that, we'll wrap this up pretty soon here. I know we've kept you long, but What are some things
We're having a good time. No, I'm good.
What are some things that you like to do just for fun?
Oh man, I forgot what is fun. I don't
No,
even
when
do it
you're not
anymore.
wrestling,
I
you're
don't
not
see-
Scheduling and being the best.
I know,
What do you like to do for
I'm
fun?
like, what do I do? You know, every single day, or I try to every single day, I take a break and I just take my bike out on the trail, and it's just like this big deep breath that I get in the day. This is the simplest. Most of my friends are still, traveling and going, all these places and stuff. But for me, as busy and as crazy as my life is, like that is probably the funnest. I mean, I will say my favorite part of my day, if I can do it, is talking to the kids, because that's just like it. I just feel so full, like with spirit and everything at that time. But the funnest part of my day is just when I let it all go, and I'm out on the trail by myself, like just listening to my music. And usually there's trees, and it's weird. Only in the last 5 years have I been able to recognize like my emotions in this way, and when, like, how am I feeling right now, and when I get out on the trail and I'm just riding my bike, it's like, it's probably the only time that I can just drop everything. And I try not to check my email and all that stuff. But
It's like a Zen moment.
yeah.
Just be.
That's a really weird way to answer that question.
No,
Like, that's the funnest thing that I do.
No, but I like that that's something that you can literally do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it fills you up, and you're like, you can reach for that really quickly instead of like, I have to wait till my trip to wherever. It's like I love going out in nature, and I love taking my kids on hikes. And at first it was a struggle, and they're like, oh, we're walking. And now they'll say it's one of their favorite things. Like they love just nature just recharges me, and it's that moment for me where I can pause everything. And I love that I'm teaching my kids, like, you can be active, and this is self-care, and it's fun, and you feel vibrant after. It's like helping them recognize, like, this is a tool you can pick up when I'm long gone,
Right.
So I think that's fantastic.
And you just reminded me, like, this is only something that I've used, quote unquote, as a mechanism of relief for myself mentally and physically in the past 3 years. And I remember why, because so when I moved to where I live now, it was right before COVID. We bought a house right before COVID, and then the world shut down. And you remember during that time, like, there was so much going on in the world, the pandemic, social justice, like all the stuff that was happening, right? It was like the news cycle, everything is doom and gloom, like you're gonna die or the world's burning down. And so I would just get out there and just like, I can't watch the news, I can't do anything, this is out of my control, and just being out there on the trail. I mean, I would ride my bike during shelter in place, probably like 3 hours a day. And now I just kind of go to it, when I need it, for like 30 minutes.
No, I love it. Well, it's funny because I'm a big proponent of journaling, like, because I'm a very emotional being, but I try to stuff that inside during the day. I'm trying to, feel more comfortable to pull it out. But I think for me, it's like I put down journaling for such a long time. And I think it's because with kids and work, I got overwhelmed and I just got out of the habit. And then for me, I've tried to pick it back up within that last year. And I have like all these little journals all over, so I could pick one up at any time and just write down thoughts and just get it down, or manifest something I want. Like, I have one in my car, and I've mentioned this before, that I love to just keep in my glove box. And sometimes when I'm feeling a little crazy or my mind is off and I'm about to walk into work, I'll pick it out and I'll just jot down my randomness, my thoughts, what I think I can turn my day into. And it's just like, it's so simple, but for me it just has such a huge mind effect. And so I don't know, it's one of those self-cares that I, for whatever reason, thought, I don't need this, and now that I'm doing it, I'm like, damn, you needed this. Like, we need to pay attention to self more than I feel like we do.
I feel like a lot of being successful or being productive or being just being able to function in life is having these things, these rituals, that we use. For me, it might be riding my bike. For you, it might be journaling, right? But I think we're all kind of doing the same. It's just getting in tune with our own inner voice at times, whether that's writing it down, or for me, it's just having nothing else but myself, and nature to kind of like open me up to that. And I feel that way on a hike too, like you were saying. So, I think when you said, like, it really spoke to me when you said you get away from it, right? I felt that way at times, more stressed out when, like, I didn't have time to go on my bike rides and stuff. And then I come back and I'm like, oh my God, like we need to start making this a priority again, because it's like, for me, I always want that stuff. Another thing being meditation, which I've gone in and out of periods of my life of being good at. I'm in a good spot right now with doing it daily. It's like preventative. It doesn't help. It's not just a get on my bike, a relief from stress. It's like, if I do this, the person that I'm going to be tomorrow and the next day and the next day, like I've done all the things to kind of prepare for the best mind that I want to have, not just go to this, meditate when I'm having a really bad day or stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting how, at least for me, it's like I'm willing to sacrifice the stuff that's just for me. Because I love helping other people. I love making sure everyone else is okay. And so the first thing I put in my pocket is anything that's just for me, because it's extra. But now, as things are getting crazier and I'm getting busier, and I'm realizing, no, I'm not extra. I'm a priority too. So it's okay if I make myself a priority. I don't have to feel guilty or like, and that's my own stuff personally, I guess. But I know the more I invest in me, the more I'm able to be a mouthpiece for others and to help others, and the more I feel in flow with where I should be and what I should be doing, and so that's huge. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, Ryan, thank you for joining us. Right, we're excited to have you. How would anyone be able to find you? Your social media page, Facebook, where are you active?
Yeah, so Big Fonz, the EOC. So that's BIGFONZTHE EOC. That all rhymed. I just did that the first time. That was cool.
Sounded really cool too.
Yeah. So that's on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I also have a Facebook page.
Eventually WWE, or is that the official?
I think it is, right? WWE now.
Because it was used to WWF, right?
They haven't called.
Soon. Just stay tuned. It'll happen.
Yeah.
All right.
And just another reminder, he is one of our upcoming speakers at our Awaken Your Ego event,
July
16th. So check us out.
Can't wait.
See you there.
Thank you for listening to Awaken Your Ego, a podcast that explores biohacking and self-discovery. We hope you follow us on Instagram and Facebook to stay up to date on what we're working on in your area.